here, whatever we're saying. If you got an essay back that, whether you wanted me to grade it or not grade it, I still put comments on them, so you would have the feedback. You will eventually give that back to me so that we can, so that you can just get the feedback and keep on improving, okay? All right, find the packet. There is a prompt that we're going to talk about. Will you read the very first paragraph at the top of the page after the general instructions? There are there's a longer paragraph, a shorter paragraph, and a list of sources. So read that very first paragraph that starts, small talk is considered. In that paragraph, two very important things happen. And we never skip any of this information, those first two paragraphs, because they're vital to us. What has been introduced to you? Yeah, the topic has been introduced to you. And it's going to be about small talk. And you might already be thinking, who cares? Because lots of synthesis prompts start that way. I'm like, really? This is about a penny? This is about small talk? This is about the U.S. Post Office? They are those things, Cooper, you're back there, and you up front. They are things that the world is talking about, because the whole purpose is to include you, it doesn't matter which direction you go, in the discussion. But there's something else that happens. So the topic is introduced to you, and then what else happens about the topic? It gives you the two sides. If you want to get a 1-4, the only way to get it is to write a complex argument, and a complex argument recognizes both sides. So you have got to not argue for both sides, but you have to recognize that in anything, there are probably good and bad things, okay? And even if you don't know them yet, that's no problem, because you got all the sources to read. You do need to recognize both sides. That at least gives you a shot at getting a 1-4 instead of a 1-3. Okay, go ahead and read the second paragraph. There is one word in there that you better include in your position statement, and often there are several words that you better include in your position statement. What is that word for this prompt? I mean, you've got to say small talk. It says, write an essay that synthesizes material from at least 3 sources and develops your position on what?
Role.
You better talk about the role it has to take. Just like in the one I gave you, some of you did the one on wind farms, and it said, what should an organization or a company or whatever it said consider? They should consider these things. Small talk should play this role. Do not let yourself get into small talk is good or bad. Here are the pros and cons. That's going to, I guarantee you, at the most get you a 1-3-0. You have got to see what they are asking you to do. And they are saying that you have to argue what the role is for small talk in our society, in the workplace, and they say in our everyday lives. If in your synthesis, if in your argument you say, in our everyday lives, small talk should play the role of whatever, great. If the role is not in there like I implied it in my position, it should be implied. Okay? So you can use it word for word. It doesn't bother anybody. They don't think you're plagiarizing. They know you're just trying to answer the prompt and answer the question that was given you. You know how when you use short answers, sometimes you pull from the question and you re-put that and then you do it again? That's what you do. All right, now we're going to take a look at the actual sources, but we're not going to read the whole sources yet. We're going to just look at what's in the square at the top. So turn to source A. and Brindley Dowling. Read source A to me. What does it say? This in the box.
Mary Lindsay, The Awkward but Essential Art of Office Chit Chat. The New York Times, 17th of September, 2019.
Okay, so our source is what? Where did it come from? New York Times. It is a reputable journalistic organization. It's a newspaper. That's what the New York Times is. But we can know clearly from the title probably the direction this source is leading, because it says the awkward but what? Essential art of office chit chat. So what can we already see? This is probably going to be saying.
Just gonna say that little small talk is good.
Yeah, there is a reason for small talk. You might not like it, but there is a purpose for it. And so A almost always gives some kind of background information. This particular one indicates that they're saying small talk is essential. Will you put a little plus sign? Because it's obviously pro small talk. Let's flip over and look at B. And this one was a long one, so you're gonna. Okay, Calvin, read B to us. This is part that's in the square. You don't have to obviously read the URL address for us.
Schwantes,
Great.
Marshall, banning small talk from your conversations makes you happier, says science. Ask any of these 12 questions for a change. 12th September Inc.
Uh-huh.
Okay.
Which is a magazine. Okay, so we're not seeing any problems with the date or whatever. The author, great. But we can tell from that title the direction this one leans. And what's that direction? Yeah, this one obviously is against small talk because it says you're actually happier when you don't make small talk. Okay, let's flip over and look at C. Oh, a chart. Okay, let's read that one for us.
Linhart, Amanda.
Mm-hmm. And et al. Means and others. It meant there were a lot of authors. Okay, keep going.
Chapter 2, how phones are used with friends, what they can do, and how teens use them. Pew Research Center, Internet Science Tech.
Okay. Pew Research Center publishes charts, graphs of statistics. They do surveys. Okay. I want you to look at this because you are often going to get a chart or graph that has a whole lot of information on it, and some of it you're not going to need. And so if we're writing about small talk, I want you to glance at the questions that are there and tell me of all of those, which would be the most valuable to you.
First one.
Yes, Harry, because everybody look at that. To just say hello and chat. To just say hello and chat fits in the category of what?
Small talk.
Right. Okay, the others though, look, report where you are. Coordinate where you are physically meeting someone. To do things related to your schoolwork. All that's deeper conversation, to have long conversations. Look how few people do that on texting. To exchange information privately. Look at the ages. I mean, this was a few years ago, but it's the ages of age 12 to 17. So they put something in there that they thought would kind of fit your generation. But here's the thing that I want you to note, that just because you have a big chart or a big graph doesn't mean you're going to use every piece of it. There might be only one piece in there that you can use. So you just like discard everything else. Charts and graphs are awesome to use, but you just need to use what actually applies to you. Okay? All right, now look at source D. Jay, read source D to us.
Janet Holmes, doing collegiality and keeping control at work, small talk in government departments.
Okay, this one's a little bit different. It's in a magazine titled Small Talk. I didn't even know there was such a magazine. What would your guess? Doing collegiality and keeping control at work, small talk in government departments. What would your guess be? It sounds like it's pro, doing collegiality but keeping control. And so you'll have to actually read it, but we know the purpose of it is small talk at work, in the workplace. All right, let's look at E. Harry, read that one for us.
Robert stated why small talk is so excruciating.
That's gotta be minus.
It's obviously negative, okay? Box. Okay. And then source F. Woo! We love it when we get a cartoon. Can I tell you that I got to read the synthesis 4 times? Students hardly ever mess with the cartoons. And they should, because the readers love it when they do. You have had experience interpreting cartoons. We're not always perfect at them. But you do have to figure out, like, what's the message? And it's not going to be like, oh my gosh, I have to know the politics behind this. Look at it. What's the message? What is it saying about small talk?
It's,
Yeah, it's like, it is a never-ending trap kind of thing. You feel like, oh, how am I ever going to get out of this? Obviously, is that pro or con small talk?
Constant.
Con small talk. Okay. All right, now, because what we're working on is how to use evidence, I want you to find the page that looks like this. So what I have here are samples from essays. There's one on the front and there's one on the back. I need you to skim. You don't have to read every word. One of these is summary of a source or sources, and the other one is true synthesis. Okay, so you're just gonna like literally label summary, synthesis, or whichever which. Okay, so skim through them. Skim, you should be able to tell. So one of them is summary, it's summarizing sources, and one of them is true synthesis. And we're going to talk about what the difference is here in just a minute. And just label them on both sides. Go ahead and do the ones on both sides. They're prompts that you're not going to see. I love the space exploration one, but it's kind of gotten outdated. If you finish, glance through some of the sources. You're not going to read all the sources, but you can look at a source that you think is kind of interesting. Okay, some questions for you. On both sides, which one is true synthesis? The bottom one. Okay, so what's the difference between just summarizing and using the sources and synthesizing the sources? There's explanation there. What we have been doing all year, topic sentence, evidence, commentary, clincher. With every essay you write, if you have that in your head, that's just good writing, then you are going to be okay. And with this kind of writing, of course your evidence is from the sources. True synthesis has at least how many sources in a body paragraph?
2.
Because even though some of you have done a lovely job of commentary, when you are including just one source per body paragraph, it doesn't look like you're really synthesizing. Because synthesis is bringing things together with your own voice. That commentary is huge. In fact, the chief reader, who's the head guru or whatever, said several years ago, if we could go through and highlight all of the students' use of sources, whether they paraphrased it or did direct quotes, if we took it out and most of the paper is like gone, that's not a very good paper. In a good paper, only 25 to 30% of the entire paper is from sources, and the rest is from you. I want you to consider this. The readers, they've read the sources. They've read other things. They know what it says. They want to know what you have to say. They want you to show off your skills. And you do that by using the sources, direct quotes and paraphrase, and giving your own opinion and ideas. So you use the sources to kind of like extend them and do more with them, okay? And you're thinking like, I know the source said this, but now I'm thinking this is really part of that issue. When you can do that and extend what it has to say, the readers are impressed. Okay, so synthesis has commentary and uses more than one source. Did you notice that they don't use a ton, like a big old long quote from it? Just embedding the quote like we've always been doing. There are times in research where you have to use the long quote because you just have to. But most of the time in a synthesis essay, you'll need just a bit of the quote and all your words around it. Okay? At this point, I was going to give you 15 minutes to read the sources, but I don't think we need it in order to do the activity that I really want you to do. Because what I want you doing is practicing on using the evidence. So you are going to read the sources only for the evidence that you are going to need. So look at the paper that says at the top, practice with small talk synthesis. I have already developed for you the position statement and a topic sentence. And all you are going to do is find evidence and you're going to add commentary to it. Okay, and you already know what kind of the source is pro or con or whatever, so it'll be easier just to zone in on those sources. Let me say this is one more skill I want you to learn because I want you working on how you use the evidence. But the synthesis is a place where you have an opportunity to be creative. The introduction to an argument, you can be creative. Rhetorical analysis, You can be sassy in a rhetorical analysis. Sassy is great in language, we love it, okay? But you don't have the opportunity to add any of your own stuff. You should never use I or we in a rhetorical analysis essay. But in synthesis and in argument, you can include some of your own personal knowledge. So if you can think of a cool way to start it, like maybe you were driving down the road and you saw all these windmills and you thought they were beautiful, or you thought that's ugly, they marred the environment, you know, so you have your own personal connection to it. If you can think of a small talk situation you've been a part of, whether you were uncomfortable or it helped you with something or whatever, and it fits what you have to say, that's a great way to fill up some space, to have a longer essay, and to catch it by providing some context and to really capture the attention of the reader. You hook them if you do something kind of fun at the beginning. And small talk is kind of a fun thing. If it's a serious thing, you can't obviously do something fun, okay? So I have left space for only a couple of things here for you. If you can think of a creative way, I want you to jot it down. It could work for both of them. On both sides, I've given you two different positions. On this side, small talk is necessary to develop both workplace and personal relationships. That's my position. My first body paragraph, according to this, would focus on what? Small talk is necessary to develop both workplace and personal relationships. It's easy. What would the first body paragraph be about? Workplace. Second body paragraph, obviously personal relationships. So I'm asking you to add some to the first body paragraph, and I even have the topic sentence there for you. On the back, though small talk is necessary to build relationships with both work colleagues and personal friends, conversations must go deeper for intimate relationships to develop. And so this position is going to add a little more depth to it, and it's going to not be completely anti-small talk, because most of your sources are kind of pro-small talk, but at least let somebody argue that other direction. And on this one, my body paragraphs were really going to be about how they're necessary to develop relationships, and then how they must go deeper. And so what I have here is what would be body paragraph 2. Conversations beyond small talk are necessary for relationships to develop deeper levels. Okay? So all you're doing is looking for evidence, and you're going to quote that evidence or paraphrase it or whatever. Make sure you give it credit. You're going to add some commentary. So on both sides, you are writing only 2 to 4 sentences. All right? Go to it, and when you finish, I'm going to collect them, because I'm going to look at them and hand them back to you before you write again this period, or when I have you in English.